Well, we are.
We should be live.
Okay, well, I'll talk a little bit of nonsense for about 30 seconds, just to let people who do sort of like use the YouTube channel I know that it gets a little bit quirky every once in a while. We'll give you the time to kind of get yourself in, get yourself nicely settled. It's now 6 o'clock here in the UK, so you've got plenty of time to kind of get yourself nicely. Actually, it's not. It's about seconds away. I'll tell you when I know it's 6 o'clock, because the bells here will ring, and they're loud. It's
no!
Town hall. It's town hall. Then again, we haven't been hearing it throughout the day, so who knows?
So we need to wind up by 6 o'clock. Is that what you're saying? This will be a short episode today.
Something like that. No, we'll be fine. Okay. Welcome to Talking Comic Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Leonard Sultana, and you find me at the Kendal Town Hall in Cumbria, which is a small town by the lakes here in the UK, and it has been the home of the Lakes International Comic Arts Festival this weekend, and we are going to be talking about that very soon indeed. But I'd like to welcome you along to the show. We have ourselves my usual partner in crime. We have Alyssa Franks joining us, who's kind of like manning the camera, because I'm doing my outside broadcast bit.
Manning the technical aspect of it and switching between cameras and figuring out how to do it all. And it's fun. I'm enjoying myself.
We've had a fun afternoon sorting that out, haven't we?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's fun. Well, I mean, here it's going to be a little bit noisy in the background, because if I swing the camera around, this has been the kind of like the upper floor of what has been called the Comics Clock Tower, which has been the transformation of the Kendal Town Hall. It's been 2 floors. Downstairs has had 2 smaller rooms, but up here we've had all the creatives, and at the moment they all finished an hour ago, which means in 60 minutes, as with most cons, if you've ever stuck around to the bitter end, they do clear out pretty damn sharpish. And at this point, the caretakers are putting everything back into place, which means we've got a little bit of time to talk about what I've seen here. But let's talk about some other stuff first. I know that, Alyssa, you've got some things that we can talk about, certainly in terms of the aftermath of New York Comic Con.
We have there's some exclusives talk that we can continue, primarily Toy Tokyo, which is very interesting, rehashing maybe a little bit on the Funko line would be of value, just to kind of figure out what happened and how we can prepare ourselves for perhaps San Diego Funko line upcoming.
Well, I mean, do you want to get into that now? Because I've actually had an email from Cameron, who we spoke to 2 weeks ago, who came on the Hangout, very generously gave away some Funkos and talked about the exclusives they were bringing up. I mentioned in an email when I spoke to him that Alyssa had mentioned that because we obviously had Alyssa from a very similar vantage point last week, but obviously it was a lot busier for Alyssa. But she was talking about the issues that Funko had during their New York Comic-Con experience. Spoke to Cameron about it, and he basically said, I know. And we know we were frustrated with the way some things happened. They tried their best to kind of adapt as the weekend went on, but it's still at this point a learning curve. And I suspect it's very much like what myself and Alyssa discussed when we go to the talkback panels at San Diego Comic-Con, where it's kind of even the best of intentions do get thrown very much in awry. I mean, what was your personal experience of the Funko line, Alyssa?
As I said earlier, I didn't participate in the Funko line at all because of I was able to manage to navigate around that. I did hear some people who had said that the Funko line, we seem to be having a little bit of technical difficulties, which is what it's pulling me away.
Okay.
I think that it is frozen, and that's what I was trying to. Unfortunately,
Hello.
it seems to be. You're okay, Leonard.
Right.
I'm watching the feedback on the the Google Plus channel, and that's what seems to be frozen. So I'm not sure if we should continue.
Yeah, we'll keep going.
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. So what a good friend of mine said, that they had tried to get into the Funko line. They were misdirected, and then they ended up missing out on the real line because they had been misdirected. He was eventually taken care of, and he had no problem getting what he wanted to, because people understood where he was coming from.
Sure.
The other the other pop line, I know we've been focusing on Funko quite a bit, but the other pop line of Toy Tokyo was absolutely horrendous. This is the line I stood probably for 2 or 3 hours at my glow-in-the-dark Godzilla.
Right.
And which I did get. Unfortunately, and they have a process that is so archaic and slow, and they have the product on the floor in a small booth stuck in a corner. But Toy Tokyo, and I'm going to post that link momentarily, is going to be doing a release of their toys at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And oh, good. Seems like we're working through the frozen stuff on YouTube. Toy Tokyo at 3 o'clock Eastern time is going to be releasing a number of their items. I'm not sure specifically what they're going to have for sale. I don't think it's going to be the glow-in-the-dark Godzilla.
Sure.
But I do think that it will be, I think it will be Godzilla that was more expensive, and I want to say it was $160.
Wow.
Versus it was gorgeous. Another friend of mine got it, and I got to pet it just a little bit. Well, Godzillas. I like Godzillas. I always have. So that was interesting. The other thing that we've been talking about on the forum has been San Diego pre-reg, spring cons, and those types of things. But tell us about your con this weekend, Leonard.
Right. Well, okay, absolutely. Well, this has been, like I say, the Lakes International Comic Arts Festival, and as a number of the organizers have said, it's possibly the most unwieldy acronym going, LICAF, or whatever you want to come up with. But it's just been a fascinating con because it's very much been about the creators, the artists, the writers, small press, self-published. It's not been so much about any of the major publishers as we know. I mean, I know Talkin Comics have been here, so there's been that has come over because it's been in organisation with the Toronto Comics Festival from Canada, which means I know that a bunch of Brits went over to Toronto, and in return, a whole boatload came over from to Kendal, including I mean, I've got a list somewhere of the incredible talent from. Here we are. I mean, we've got Estelle Blackard, Kate Beaton, Darwyn Cooke has been over, Stuart Immonen and his wife Kathryn, Samuel LeBlanc, Seth has been over. It's just been an incredible array of talent that has been here. But it's basically all kicked off on Friday. I mean, technically Friday was the first day of the con, although To be honest, it was more a case of everyone just getting into town and getting nicely settled. There were some great presentations on the Friday night, which I managed to get to see. Saw the If Bursts Out, the evening with Steve Bell, which I managed to, I think I took some great pictures of from the actual event. Very much an interesting and fascinating panel. This is Steve Bell, who has done political satire cartoons in The Guardian for many decades now, and is very much an established name in the British political cartoon scene. So there was that. And then when I was finished with that, I managed to get into the final hour of a very interesting presentation of Luna, which is the film by Dave McKean. And it came with a director's commentary, which I wasn't too sure how it was actually going to work in a live theatre surrounding, but it was the filming of the film being shown up on the big screen, Dave on stage and giving a live commentary about his writing of the writing of the film, the actual production, and how he would put the themes that were being presented by Luna as well. And it worked really well. Considering I've not actually seen the film previously, I now very much want to go and see the film, knowing now some of the themes that Dave McKean's put together for that particular film.
Was that is that movie? Did that movie come out a year or two ago, Luna? And was it about
it's a very surreal. It's a very
space
surreal
station.
No. This is something else entirely.
Okay.
It's very much. I mean, there's a number of British actors in there that you may recognise in there, but it won the Rain Dance Best Feature Award, and it's very much a case of some very one or two surreal elements in there as well. Very much taking on a kind of like a dreamscape, which you would expect from Dave McKean. If you're aware of his work, I mean, certainly with stuff like Arkham Asylum and Sandman, you have that kind of touch in the ethereal, and there are definite elements of that in Luna. And it was interesting to hear what Dave was thinking of when he was putting that film together, because it was definitely a labor of love for himself to make that film. So that was all that was fascinating. And then we got into the main kind of like weekend itself, the Saturday and the Sunday. I was running around pretty much from the moment that the event started. Managed to see an introduction of Justice League New Frontier, which is the DC animation adaptation of Darwyn Cooke's book. Darwyn Cooke was there and did a introduction of the presentation, and it was great to see a number of kids in there as well, who are really getting introduced, because if you've actually read New Frontier and if you've seen the film as well, it's certainly not a straightforward kids animation. It's very much a reinterpretation of the Justice League from a kind of Reds Under the Bed kind of vibe, that Cold War kind of aspect. So that was fascinating to hear what Darwyn had to say, especially when he was talking about being approached to make it, and Bruce Timm approached him to make the film and turned around and said, "Okay, I don't know how the hell we're going to do this. Look at the size of this thing. Come on, can you just narrow it down to 20 pages? Tell me how we're going to do this." So it was fascinating to see. That was very cool. Managed to see the Art of Jock panel as well. Yeah, I know.
I saw that on the schedule, and was very jealous, and knew that you were going to go see that one. Tell me all about it. Did he do any giveaways? Did you get to see him draw anything?
I beg pardon?
Did you get to see him draw anything?
No, it was a sit down panel, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He didn't. He wasn't drawing, but he was talking about his influences, talking about how he got into the business, which seems very much like he fell into it. It does seem to be that kind of like dream career where things have just developed for him, and it's just worked. And it was interesting I mean, it was Andy Diggle that got him onto The Losers for Vertigo, and from there the film adaptation. And it was interesting to hear kind of like his approach, because he's very much somebody who takes it a lot freer than I thought it was going to be. I thought he was going to be someone who was very meticulous about what he does with his art, but it sounds like he kind of really kind of rushes at the page and sees how it lands, and it's fascinating to hear him talk about that. It was also interesting as well because he's also going to be doing, or he is doing, pre-production work on Star Wars Episode 8. And it was interesting because you could see the look of fear. He could almost imagine the sniper's rifle sort of like showing up in his forehead going, I can't say anything. I can't. And you could see the look of fear on his face. It was hilarious to watch because Chris Thompson from Orbital Comics was then asking him, well, would you like to talk about, say, your relationship to Star Wars? And he said, I can't, because people could misconstrue it as to what I'm doing with Episode 8. I can't do it. It was hilarious to watch him kind of like get really nervous about what he had to talk about. But it was a brilliant presentation, and fantastic to hear about him talk. Also interesting to hear that, because I brought up Mondo posters, and it was interesting because he actually turned around to the audience and said, does anyone know who Mondo is? And no one knew who Mondo was.
Oh.
So it's very much an an American thing, perhaps, and who knows? So that
because
was cool.
That was where I had heard of Jacques first, was from his Mondo posters.
Yeah. And
I was amazed that he made the crossover into comics. Very surprised about that. Maybe I was late to the game, but he does seem to have had that dream career. So I'm so glad you got to see that panel. That's wonderful. There was fun. Yeah. There was one other panel that I had seen that sounded really interesting. Or one other, or maybe it was Kieron Gillen. Did Kieron Gillen?
No, it was on at the same time. It was on at the same time as the job, so I couldn't go. That one was interesting. It was called Graphics to Games and Back Again, and it was about the relationship between games designing in 2016 and the cross-pollination between comics artists and graphic design for games. Apparently, Kieron had a great time because I managed to speak. I did an interview with Kieron late on Saturday afternoon. Was it? Yes. Sorry, it's all starting to blur into one at this point. And I talked to him about that, and he sounded like he had a great time because he started as a comics journalist. As a games journalist. So this was kind of like a return to that world for him the course of this weekend. And it was interesting to see his eyes light up when he got up, when he was talking about that panel.
Neat. It's always fun to speak with Kieron. Even when I had an opportunity, I asked for his signature at New York Con last year, and I want to talk about signatures too, how hard it was to get them at your con. He always it took him like minutes to sign my one comic book because he was just chatting and talking and so just full of life and effervescent. So I had wondered how he was doing this weekend. So
I can't wait to upload the video interview that I did because I was only wanting to speak to him for like 5 minutes. It's a 19-minute interview.
We look forward to it.
It's fun because I talked to him about Wiccan Divine, about how that has just blown up since we spoke to him. Because when we first interviewed Kieron, it was like issue 1 was just about to come out. He was working on issue 2, and no one knew the success that it has become, this rampant success. But he was talking about Darth Vader as well, and that was fun.
I have got to remember to keep seeing the camera and the camera work. That's all on me. I will just say this right off the bat. Leonard's not taking any charge of that this week. So how is getting signatures? Were you able to get the signatures that you wanted?
Signatures was interesting because the people that I was wanting to get stuff signed by had their own panels to do, and they also were being kind of like appearing in various venues around Kendal, because this is the thing about Kendal as the event, the Lakes International Art Festival. It's the comics here at the comics clock tower here at the town hall. You've got the Shakespeare Centre at the back of the Shakespeare pub halfway down the road. Then further down, you've got the Brewery Arts Centre, which is where the main sort of like cinema screens are and where the theatres are, and there were panel rooms in there. So people were kind of like bouncing backwards and forwards. I did manage to get my books signed by Stuart Immonen. I did manage to get a gorgeous James Bond Darwyn Cooke print signed. I managed to track him down. And I got my Kieron books as well. So that was rather nice.
Wonderful.
But I think that the highlight for me, certainly in terms of the panels, this happened on the Saturday. This was a panel which was called Chameleon, the Art of Stuart Immonen. And I suspected it was going to be a straightforward panel. As it happens, it was moderated by Sean Phillips, who we've spoken to and about on the Hangouts before. And it ended up being 2 drawing pads which were being filmed from above and put on the screen. And it was split into 2 40-minute pieces where Stuart did a pencil piece and Sean Phillips did a pencil piece. Sean did Wolverine, and because he's doing Star Wars, Stuart Immonen did Han Solo. And then after 40 minutes, they swapped artworks and inked each other's work. So
interesting.
If you've actually seen Sean Phillips' artwork for things like Criminal and that kind of thing, it's definitely a different take on, it's a different style. So it was brilliant to see these 2 types of artwork coming together for these unique final products. It was fantastic. And also we had this kind of interview as well, talking with Stuart Immonen about his techniques, about his history, about what he got, how he works. Brilliant. It really was just the highlight of my weekend so far. That was just an amazing panel.
I love seeing artists, mix and match and just getting thrown and having to deal with what they have. That's brilliant. That's just amazing. I love it. I love it.
It was really good as well because they were talking about keeping their pencils nice and light. So then when the inks got applied, they could then interpret. They didn't want to just kind of fill in the lines which they had put on the paper. They wanted the inker to then interpret the piece themselves, and it ended up with 2 very unique pieces. They're going up for auction. Indeed, a number of the art pieces that are being created here at the Lakes are going up for an auction which is happening a week before Thought Bubble in November. Jonathan Ross is going to be doing that auction.
So this convention was produced by the gentleman that we had on the Hangout 2 weeks ago? Was that?
No, that was
okay.
That's the International Comics Expo that takes part in Birmingham. This is actually, this is in its 3rd year, which is staggering for the talent that they have attracted for an event that's been arranged in its 3rd year. It's actually been arranged by somebody who's got a fine arts background, but her sons have an interest in comics and basically encouraged her to put on this comic arts festival. So it's kind of like come from a slightly different background, but it's just attracted an astonishing array of talent in those 3 years for putting on the event. It's a real kind of village hall feel, but at the end of the day, you've got world-class talent. It's absolutely staggering.
Are they making enough, I hate to sound crass, but are they making enough money to do this, to put this on again next year?
Oh, no.
Are they breaking even?
Yeah, it's definitely a yearly thing, but it's funded by the National Arts Council. So there's some money coming from there as well. It's a non-profit event as well. So any of the money that is raised from it. This is the interesting thing about this particular event. It's totally free of charge to enter. You can walk around the Comics Clock Tower, and it's a free entry event. The panels, you don't actually pay for a ticket for the con or for the event. What you actually do is you pay per panel. So, for example, the Art of Jock panel was £8, so about $12, $13. And it's you kind of cherry picked the panels that you wanted to see and paid for them individually.
It sounds very much like Gen Con,
Right, okay.
you know, in the same, you know, same kind of way. So I've heard rumor that perhaps your hotel was not that nice.
Sorry?
Care to go into the comment? Your hotel was not that nice.
Well,
Care to go into your accommodations?
Yes, my funds haven't been fantastic to afford to come along to do this. So I did go for a budget kind of location to sleep in, but it's directly opposite the clock tower. So I thought nice in proximity, right in the center of town. But it meant the clock bells kicked off at 7 o'clock in the morning, all the way through till midnight, every 15 minutes. So you had a very early rise. It's also directly above a karaoke bar, so that kept us awake as well. And it's not been the best hotel room in the world, but you muddle through.
Yeah, there has been a lot of talk.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think my tweets have been very much reactionary as it's happened, but I'm here, I'm alive, I slept, kind of. But there we go. No, it was fun. And today it's been a case of going around and seeing all the bits that I haven't been able to see throughout the course of the rest of the weekend. So a fantastic presentation of they've had a display from the Kyoto International Manga Museum that have brought over a number of incredible artwork, which has been on display in an exhibition in the Arts Brewery. What else have I caught the back end of the Art of Dave McKean panel, which was very, very cool. What else have we had as well? Oh, yes. And then there was kind of like the last panel, which I got to see, which was the big comic draw, which was Darwyn Cooke, Stuart Immonen, Ian McCree, and it was hosted by Chris Thompson. And they were all kind of like, there was 2 drawing panels and the sofa in the middle. So they did so like 20-minute pieces each and then swapped and kind of like, and then another one, so like they all kind of moved around. It was like musical chairs for artists. It was
And you
cool.
said that was a 24-hour panel?
Sorry?
And you said that was the one that was going 24 hours?
No, that was that was 20 minutes each, and then they changed.
Okay.
No, there has been a 24-hour comics marathon as well, which started on Thursday, 3 o'clock on Thursday afternoon through till 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon. A number of artists created a full comic each in 24 hours, and they all got it printed out, and they've been selling the comics here on the Sunday.
Neat. Oh, neat. Was it any good?
Fantastic, absolutely amazing. Dan Berry did a comic which was very gorgeous, very sumptuous. No, they all did brilliant pieces of work. It's just been a real celebration of some very, very fine talent indeed, and it's been a joy to attend. And I really can't wait to come back again next year.
You're just trying to rub it in after New York, after all the fun everybody had in New York.
It's a definite different con. It's a definite different event. Absolutely. I mean, we are talking literally sort of like maybe I couldn't hazard a guess, but maybe 40, 50,000. No, even less than that. 40, 50,000 perhaps. But I wouldn't even go that far perhaps. It's real small and intimate. And it's just been a really calm con. Like I say, it's been I mean, Kendal is kind of out in the middle of nowhere, to be honest. And it's interesting to get this amount of talent to come to Kendal. Hello?
We do seem to still be having some video problems. I'm not sure if I'm getting comments on the Q&A that are basically saying that the video stream is dropping out. So it may not be worth it to for us to continue.
Okay. Well, I mean, to wrap up, it's been an amazing event, and I can't wait to come again. I think we may do another recap in the middle of the week.
Let me just kind of take a read through. Let's see, Mike and Jean both are saying that they're having problems watching the feed.
Yeah.
And now Jean is saying it's back on, but I know that I monitor it, and it occasionally it's been dropping out and saying an error occurred. I'm not sure what the problem is, to be honest with you. I already kicked everybody off of my home Wi-Fi, and we do have pretty good upload speed. So I'm confused.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's the Wi-Fi here in this town hall.
Well, that shouldn't interfere with my upload, to be honest with you.
Well, okay.
So I'm not.
I think. I mean, what time are we at? Okay. I mean, we've done half an hour.
30. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just to do a quick wrap up, we are going to be doing a pre-reg special for San Diego. I think November 1st, which is we'll be going over all the basics, posting links for the video, making sure people have got their groups together, and all of that. Because I anticipate the sale being that following week, to the point of asking my boss for that day off from work. So just so people understand, how serious it is. I think the following Saturday is also a distinct possibility.
Sure. I do think it's going to be earlier rather than later in the month.
Yeah. Get it out of the way. Nobody wants to mess with Thanksgiving. At some point I would love to do some conversations about, and perhaps we can get into this next week, a conversation about the business of conventions. And we talked briefly about it with regards to to the con that you're at this weekend. But how many people have to come to a con before it becomes profitable enough for people to do it the second year and the third year? I know I had a con in my neighborhood that ended up losing money significantly and ended up having to die because they didn't have enough. And also what it is with this con tribe that's going on. So I would like to do a little bit about that next week.
That's fine. Yeah, okay.
Since we seem to be casting about for a topic next week.
I'm sure we can always find something to talk about.
Absolutely. So if anybody is interested in joining us, dare I say, contact Leonard and see if we can put together a show.
We'll get something organized.
So I think without further ado,
I'm going to
say goodnight.
I'm now going to find the hotel room and collapse into it. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how loud it is or how uncomfortable. I'm going to sleep tonight. I'm definitely going to sleep tonight. Okay.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Like I say, we're also going to be talking about a couple of the other cons that are happening. I know that Paris Comic-Con is happening next week, and also London MCM as well. We'll try and cover those the best we can as well. Do join us next week. We're back from 6 o'clock. I am going to be back home as well, so hopefully we'll try and get any technical issues we've had a little bit more ironed out. I think it's more the Wi-Fi I've kind of piggybacking on here, but we'll do what we can to get everything nicely shipshape again for next Sunday.
Bye.
Take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend.